All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. I'm supposed to be working right now and getting stuff done, but everybody's out of the house, so I'm going to make noise. Uh, the double bass pedal after a month. Here's what I've learned, part two kind of thing. And I've heard people like really, really good players and instructors online saying that, oh, it took them 2 years to find their pedal settings. I'm like, I don't want to take 2 years to find my pedal settings. And I'm like, okay, how can you fast track that? Well, the only way you can fast track that is if you know what you want. Now, when it comes to guitars, it's very easy for me. What do I want? I could pick the scale length. I could pick the tone woods. So I'm not going to get into the controversy of that, but it is a thing. Is it a major thing? No, but it is a thing. And I can, tell you how many strings on it, what kind of pickups. It's very, very easy. You just look at the formula of the guitar, and it kind of tells you what you're getting. With the drums, you kind of get the same thing with the shells, where it's like, okay, well, I want brighter sound, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get the birch and the maple. You want darker sound, you want maybe the birch and the walnut, or the maple and the walnut, whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, there's that. There's a bit of a tone there. And then the skins are a bit of a research kind of, well, what is it you're going after? Well, I'm going to be primarily a metal drummer. I'm not going to be learning jazz. I'm not saying I'm not going to learn jazz beats and stuff like that, but I'm not going to be focusing on that. And I will say, oh, my hands cleaned the furnace this morning. Can you tell? I've learned with guitar and stuff like that years ago. And again, there was a byproduct that came out of this. Was most guitar players, if they took guitar lessons, say in the 1980s or before, they were either going to take a classical, blues, or country. That was the only guitar lessons available. Right? And then if they were a metal guy, they had to adapt. Which, if you were a classical guy, well, you ended up with guys like Yngwie, so that's pretty darn cool. And if you were a blues guy, you ended up like with Stevie Ray Vaughan types, and etc. etc. And then everybody else, like your Eddie Van Halens and your Joe Satriani. If you took jazz guitar, you ended up like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, right? Even though those were metal guys, they end up becoming like more like fusion guys. But nowadays, you can just jump right to the chase of whatever it is you want to learn. So I'm learning metal beats right from the get-go so that my body ingrains metal beats. And if someday I say, that's it, I'm going to become a jazz drummer. I'm going to be a well-rounded jazz drummer. Well, at least my main goal is ingrained of learning metal beats first. And it doesn't mean there's no crossovers, but you get the idea that I'm going to be focusing on that stuff. Because you get good at what you practice. It doesn't matter what the instrument is. It doesn't matter what the music it is. If you're practicing jazz and you want to be a metal drummer, that's fine, but you'll get really good at jazz and masquerading as a metal drummer, right? And vice versa. So for me, I'm really focusing on the, for example, if I wrote a song and I wanted to take every really cool drum line in it, what would it sound like? Well, it would start with the beginning to Painkiller. Like that just insanity, right? And then it would go into some sort of like high speed blast beat, like that. And then something like that, Hot for Teacher kind of shuffle. Go into something like that for a bit. And then it would go into the from Metallica's One. And then it'd finish a bridge at kind of like Domination from Pantera. Yeah, that thing, right? And then to take you out of the song, I'd do the end of Venom from Anchor, the way Ellen Enoda does that thing, and just and then king pang cling all that stuff, the finesse, and then finish it up with some sort of like Slipknot crazy stuff, right? Because that drummer, like that guy is pretty darn good, right? I couldn't tell you what his name is, but it when you hear it, right? So to learn that, you got to think of the level these guys are at. So you're 1 month on a pedal, double bass pedal, 8 months on playing, right? You'd say don't even attempt that. Just work on your fundamentals, your groove, get your timing. Yes, get the timing, right? But push your limit. You don't get good unless you push your limit. And if you start off that way, okay, you just get good fast. As long as you're really critiquing your flaws. That's why I make a lot of these videos. I don't care if people say, oh, dude, you suck, thumbs down, fine, whatever. But tell me why I suck. What am I missing? And a lot of times I'm getting to the point where I can hear where I'm missing. It doesn't sound like Ellen Inoda. It doesn't sound like Alex Van Halen. It doesn't sound like the drummer from Pantera. It doesn't sound like the drummer from, Judas Priest. Okay, it's not sounding like those things. What am I doing wrong? Okay, let's analyze, And it's one of those things where, like a guitar, your ears will tell you when your ears don't lie to you. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm practicing the way I'm practicing. Yes, I practice the fundamentals once a month. Just to go through them, because that's you can spend a lot of time on that, and you'll get good at it. There's no doubt about that. But where are you going to use it? You know what I mean? To be aware of any sort of music theory, whether it's guitar, a bass, drums, whatever, is like 90% of the battle. Just to be aware of what it is you want to do, right? And just knowing, like for example, guitar players that. Marty Freeman said this. Marty Freeman, from Cacophony and stuff like that. Marty Freeman, Jason Becker, the dynamic duo there. As good as Marty Freeman is, when he was in his 20s, of course you say stupid stuff when you're in your 20s. Everybody does that. I'm sure he would have a different take now. But he's like, they ask him about what scales do you use? He goes, well, I don't use scales because I don't want to, basically, I don't think that's a great way to write because it'll limit you or something like that. And that's said usually from ignorance. When you know the difference in the modes, right? Even if you're not exactly sure what scale is whatever, but you know the sound difference of the modes, that gives you the opportunity to be so creative and know exactly what to put where. Same with the scales. The more scales you learn, great. But if you just practice scales, you get good at scales. But it's just okay. But what do you put where? Well, when you know about it, you know what to put where. Well, it's the same with the drums. Right? If you know what the different beat patterns are, stuff like that with the fundamentals, and some people say practice fundamentals on the double pedal. Other people say don't do it. You'll get good at it, but it won't help you the way you think it's going to help you because your hands are different from your feet, right? And I kind of get what the debate is there. And it seems like it's all over the map. I got to watch the time here. Yeah, okay, I still got time. But the debate is all over that, whether you should practice fundamentals with your feet or not. So I thought, okay, well, what is it that I would really, get from practicing fundamentals with my feet? Because once you learn it with your hands, right, you know what the fundamental is. And I mean, I've went through 40 fundamentals, whatever, and stuff like that. And most of them I suck at. A lot of them I'm okay with. But I'm aware of them, right? So I'm like, okay, well, that tells me I could selectively on the spot saying, hey, this would be a great time to put this here in this group, use this fundamental with this group, blah, 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 stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, well, what would fast track me more with the double pedal? Well, timing is obviously the thing. And you can't expect a good drummer, like anybody that's criticizing me that I suck or whatever, at 8 months in, I'm like, I guess you just don't get the point that when you're like when you were at 8 months, you sucked just as much as I did. You know what I mean? You sucked for the first year or so. That's the whole thing of learning an instrument. It's a journey, right? So it's like people that have been playing like 15, 20 years and they're like, oh yeah, you suck. I'm like, yeah, you did too at one point. But what made you not suck was repetitiveness, learning stuff, not plateauing. And that's what I don't want to do, is I don't want to plateau. So mind you, every instrument you will plateau on at a point. But if I'm plateauing at Painkiller, that's fine. If I'm plateauing at the end of, Venom from Anchor, if that's the best drumming I can do, trust me, people are going to say that. Don't worry, you don't suck. Again, you got to check out this Ellen, the tiny, tiny little woman just sitting there. You see her feet going there. It's like, pretty cool. Very impressive. But the thing is you don't get that way. Nizo from Frozen Crown, I think he's an awesome drummer. Simple, minimalist kit. Like, I think he has like 4 cymbals and tom, floor tom, snare, double bass pedal, and he's just like brrr, like that. But just like it just sounds like his kit is like 5 times bigger than what it actually is. Very impressive guy. So like, how did he get there? Well, he was a jazz drummer, sure, but he's also a speed metal guy, right? So what does that tell me? Well, if you want to be into the speed metal, which I love speed metal, thrash metal and speed metal are like, that's my soul right there. So what do I got to do? Well, I got to start preparing my training to gear it to lead me on to that path. You got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you run. I get all that, but you know, as long as you understand what it is you're learning, breaking things down and stuff like that, and you know, I'm watching people break down like really complicated patterns and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's what he's doing. So how do you do that at speed? How do you do that slow? And what I'm finding, and what most drummers would probably agree with, is it's harder to play slow than it is to play fast, isn't it? Just to stay consistent. The slower you go, there's a certain speed barrier that you hit. You just can't go any faster. But things smoothen out as you pick up speed. Well, the guitar is the same way. But then there's also, though, if the note is not clear and articulate, slow it down. You know, and then once you slow it down, slow it way down to see how steady you can stay. And that's where the metronome and all that comes in. But so the journey for the double pedal for me is, if somebody were to ask me, say, Reg, I'm brand new to drums. Should I, you know, start with a double pedal? Maybe I'll make another video on that.